He was born into privilege, but he chose humility.
Mahatma Gandhi,
Born in 1869 in British-ruled India, began life as a timid student. After studying law in London and experiencing racism in South Africa, something within him awoke. He returned to India not as a lawyer, but as a revolutionary armed only with truth and nonviolence. In an age of empires and oppression, Gandhi's methods defied logic. No guns, no armies, no bloodshed. Just salt marches, hunger strikes, and the power of peaceful resistance. His philosophy of Satyagraha, holding on to truth, ignited a national movement that dismantled the British Raj. But Gandhi was more than a freedom fighter. He lived simply, spun his own clothes, and preached unity in a country divided by religion, caste, and class. His voice shook thrones and awakened the conscience of the world. Though bullets silenced him in 1948, his legacy roars on, inspired by compassion, courage, and an unbreakable belief in human dignity. From Martin Luther King Jr. to Nelson Mandela, generations have followed his path. This is the story of the frail man in a loincloth who changed the course of history, not through might, but through moral force. This is the story of Mahatma Gandhi. In today's episode of Great Lives, we'll trace the journey of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. The name Gandhi came from his ancestral village of Porbandar in Gujarat, where his great-grandfather, a hereditary chief minister of the local ruler, converted to Hinduism. When he married, he was given the title of Mahatma, meaning great soul. It became the honorific title of all his male descendants. Mohandas was born on October 2, 1869, the second child of his parents, Shrimadaji and Putlibai. His father, a deputy collector in the princely state of Porbandar, was a devout Hindu, while his mother, deeply religious, observed fasts and prayed regularly. Both these traits would come to define Gandhi's life. The young Mohandas, or hence Moni, as he was called at home, displayed little spark of the revolutionary that he would become. According to his sister, he was a timid child who cried icily. Moni was barely 3 when his mother died. Grief-stricken, his father sent him and his sister to a boarding school run by Christian missionaries near Bombay. A few years later, his father remarried. Moni's stepmother didn't like him, and his relationship with his father deteriorated. By his own admission, the lonely boy was spoiled and self-willed. He was also skinny and had very little hair, which made him a target for school bullies. To defend himself, Moni took up wrestling. Years later, recalling his experience at the school, he wrote, "Those who want to know how one should live cannot learn anything except life itself from those who have passed through suffering." At 13, his father arranged his engagement to a girl his own age named Kasturbai. They would later marry and have 4 children together. Kasturi was an intelligent girl who knew English. She tutored her husband, who knew very little English. According to her, it was she who taught him how to write with a pen. Mahoney was an average student, and his father never encouraged him to pursue higher education. So, after high school, he secured a job in a solicitor's office in Rocket, then moved to work in Ahmedabad as an apprentice to a barrister. But soon his father's influence helped him get a job in the legal department of the Baroda state. All the while, Gandhi was saving part of his salary to study law in London. When he finally left India in 1888, he did so under false pretenses. He hid from his father the fact that he was going to England to study law. On reaching London, Gandhi stayed at the house of a friend of his father, who introduced him to vegetarianism and daily prayers. For the first time, far from home and living on his own, Gandhi developed a sense of independence and self-reliance. He enrolled at the Inner Temple, one of the 4 legal societies in London, to study law. But instead of focusing on his studies, he found himself drawn to social issues. He joined the Vegetarian Society and helped organize a campaign against the use of dogs in the British Army. One day he walked into a bookshop to buy a book on Tolstoy and ended up buying 2 books on Jesus Christ and the life of an English peasant. Reading these books along with the Bhagavad Gita profoundly affected him. He realized that he was just concerned about one thing: how to live a good life. And with that epiphany came the call to return to India. Now a qualified barrister, he could have returned to India and started a lucrative legal practice. But Gandhi decided to settle in South Africa, which was closer to India and offered better prospects. However, he soon discovered that as a person of color, he was not welcome in the white society. One day he boarded a train to Pretoria. He had a third-class ticket, but when he got on the train, a white man asked him to move to the fourth-class compartment. When he refused, the white man called a policeman who dragged him off the train, placed him under arrest, and put him in jail for the night. It was the first time that Gandhi experienced racial discrimination, and he described the humiliation he suffered at the hands of white people in a letter to his wife, saying, "The whites here seem to think that we Indians are not human beings." This experience shook him, and in 1903, he joined the Natal Indian Congress to fight for Indian rights. In 1908, he was arrested for a political speech. In prison, he decided to go on hunger strike until his water was mixed with milk. When the authorities agreed to his demands, it made headlines across South Africa. Writing to his son, he said, "I am convinced there is no force on earth more powerful than hunger. If men will give up meat and use the flesh diet only for the sake of experimenting, they will find themselves deriving immense benefits." Through such campaigns, Gandhi rose to become a leader of Indians in South Africa. But by now, India was also yearning for freedom. In 1914, Gandhi returned to India, though he still held British citizenship. Back home, he was hailed as a hero, and many joined his Satyagraha ashram in Kakrab to learn how to make rope, broom, mats, and candles. Once again, he emphasized hard work, truth, and nonviolence. But his dream of nationwide Satyagraha could not take off due to the First World War. Instead, he supported the war effort and even recruited Indians to serve in the British Army. However, the war gave him an idea. As the Khilafat movement gained momentum, Gandhi saw an opportunity to unite Hindus and Muslims for India's freedom. He joined the movement to demand the restoration of the Ottoman Caliphate that the British had abolished after the war. In 1920, the annual session of the Indian National Congress in Calcutta passed a resolution for complete independence. With this, Gandhi stepped into the shoes of a reluctant revolutionary. Gandhi may not have been violent, but his campaigns were disruptive. During the non-cooperation movement of 1920 to 22, he asked Indians to boycott British goods, schools, and courts, and to not pay taxes. This movement paralyzed the British administration. Peasants across the country refused to pay revenue, and lawyers gave up their lucrative practices. Students left government schools and colleges. This mass civil disobedience forced the viceroy to suspend the movement in February 1922. 2 months later, Gandhi was arrested for the first time in his life. Sentenced to 6 years in prison, he served 2 years before being released. In 1924, Gandhi set up the Sabarmati Ashram. In 1928, he led the civil disobedience movement. Then in 1930, he embarked on the famous Dandi Salt March, accompanied by 78 of his trusted colleagues. Gandhi walked 240 miles to Dandi to break the British salt law. He made a point to walk barefoot so that he could feel the suffering of the poor. Upon reaching Dandi, he picked up a handful of salt and washed it in the seawater, thus breaking the law. It was a symbolic protest against the British monopoly on salt and an emblem of India's struggle for freedom. Soon, hundreds of Indians were arrested. Gandhi was sentenced to 6 years in prison, but he was released after 2 years due to ill health. After his release, Gandhi was assassinated on January 30th, 1948. The assassin, Nathu Ramgads, was a member of the Hindu nationalist organization Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which opposed Gandhi's views on nonviolence and his attempts to seek a middle ground with the Muslim League. Although he was dead, his ideas lived on. Across the world, leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela used nonviolent resistance to dismantle racial segregation in America and South Africa, respectively. In India, millions continued to be inspired by his principles. Every year on October 2nd, we celebrate Gandhi Jayanti, his birthday, as the International Day of Nonviolence. His ideas may not have given India its freedom, but they certainly gave it a direction. That's all for today. Do share your feedback and suggestions in the comments below. We'll see you next time.